The title of this presentation is Reading Fluency. Fluent reading is reading with speed, accuracy, and expression while simultaneously constructing meaning from text. The fluent reader engages in several complex processes simultaneously, which include translating letters into sounds, blending sounds into words, accessing words without thinking, making meaningful connections within and between sentences, relating text meaning to prior knowledge, and making inferences to supply missing information. Let's take a closer look at 3 dimensions of fluency: phrasing, expression, and intonation. I'm going to package these 3 dimensions under the broader category of prosody. Prosody refers to the ability to read text orally using appropriate phrasing, intonation, and attention to punctuation. Prosody is conveyed through stress and loudness, pitch variation and intonation, duration or how long it takes for a word to be pronounced, and chunking the text into phrases. Read the following 3 sentences aloud. What do you notice about the patterns and rhythm of how your voice sounds? What changes from one sentence to another? Read the phrase, "I don't think so," to 1, reinforce a message, and 2, to show doubt. What do you notice about how your voice changes in terms of prosody when you read both sentences? One way to teach readers to use and make changes in their intonation or loudness involves introducing an up and down scale. This can visually represent how the reader can turn up their voice volume and adjust their pitch. Tyndall and Marston offer a 5-point prosody rating scale. This tool can be used by teachers to demonstrate and also assess oral reading. Moreover, students can use the tool to listen and self-assess recorded samples of their own reading. The lowest rating, 1, represents slow, choppy, and robotic-sounding reading. Levels 4 and 5 represent the highest rating. This is how students' oral reading is typically expected to sound by 8th grade. Appropriate flow, pausing and phrasing, and using expression while reading. To build oral reading fluency, children need massive amounts of practice reading a variety of texts. The best way to facilitate this is to give access to text that children are interested in and want to read so that they can make choices without being restricted to a specific set of texts that fall within a level that a teacher's use of an assessment system has ascribed to the child. So what did the National Reading Panel find about fluency instruction? Fluency instruction was documented as most effective when it included guided, repeated oral reading. Repeated reading in general means reading the same passage more than one time. Specific procedures used to implement repeated reading as an instructional strategy have been documented by Chomsky in 1978, Samuels in 1979, to allow an opportunity for a learner who has struggled with a new passage to read the passage again until fluency and comprehension increases. With repeated reading as a strategy or methodological procedure, the teacher asks the student to read aloud a short, so-called frustration level passage of about 50 to 200 words until the child reaches a criterion level of success. This might be deemed as a particular speed and accuracy goal. Repeated reading has led to gains in reading fluency for students with disabilities, especially at the elementary grade level, as documented by Lee and Yoon. Repeated reading has not been shown to be effective for readers with so-called severe reading impairments at the high school level. This is documented in a study by Wexler and colleagues. For students with or so-called at risk for learning disabilities, Repeated reading is not supported by rigorous research, where rigor is determined by the quality indicators from What Works Clearinghouse used by Chard and colleagues. So let's try to make sense of that research on repeated reading for students with disabilities. The data show that repeating reading by itself is not sufficient to meet the full scope of needs that students with disability labels like specific learning disability have in the area of reading. What that means is that we want to do more than simply repeated reading. Let's look at other methods or practices that can be used to promote fluent reading. Class-wide peer tutoring is one method that allows repeated reading, modeling, and feedback while offering a wide range of practice with oral reading. Pairs of students take turns reading to each other. This method increases the amount of time that students spend reading in class. It also makes use of repeated reading, timed oral reading samples, and affords extra practice with difficult parts contained within those passages. To implement class-wide peer tutoring or partner reading involves several steps. The teacher typically pairs the students with the higher benchmark fluency scores and students whose scores are respectively lower. That forms the dyad or peer tutoring partnership. The teacher also selects reading material that the lower performing student can read with at least 95% accuracy. When implementing the class-wide peer tutoring routine, the teacher designates the more advanced reader as the first in the partnership to read. While the first partner is reading, the second follows along. Then students reverse roles, so this gives both students the opportunity to read and be tutors. Overall, this method requires careful teacher preparation and organization. The next method uses the idea of ornamenting the text with scallops or scoops. Using available reading material, readers draw scallops or scoops under the text to connect phrases logically. Then, using the visual aid of the scalloped text, students read aloud until the sound, speed, and rhythm are acceptable. As a more focused intervention in a one-on-one setting, interventionists can test procedures to find out which works best for a particular student. These procedures can be folded into repeated reading instruction. Detailed description of these three procedures, error drill, listening passage preview, word repeat, and sentence repeat, are included in the notes on Canvas that accompany this presentation. So let's sum up what we've explored so far and add a few new ideas to the mix. The most important part of building fluency is offering a wide range of opportunities to practice reading texts that are of interest to readers. Some methods and procedures help students learn to read with speed, accuracy, and expression. These include class-wide peer tutoring, scalloping the text, offering choices so students can select the text they want to read, teaching intonation, repeated reading. An example of a practice to avoid, a practice that is not shown to be effective, is popcorn or round-robin reading. This is where students read aloud, taking a turn one at a time to read the whole piece of text. This method offers very little opportunity to practice reading and fails to promote fluency. Moreover, it's been shown to lead to adverse outcomes for students, perhaps because of the anxiety associated with being spotlighted to perform reading a passage with no rehearsal. Instead of round-robin or popcorn reading, better options are available. These include echo reading, choral reading, and reader's theater. To promote reading fluency, teachers need to make data-based decisions about adjustments that they can make to instruction. One mechanism for assessing reading fluency is achieved through listening to a student's oral reading while using procedures specified by Publishers of curriculum-based measures, or CBM, such as Dibbles, AimsWeb, or EasyCBM. Reading curriculum-based measures, or RCBMs, involve timing a student's oral reading rate and/or calculating a percentage accuracy by determining the number of words read correct out of the total words read. Several linguistic considerations need to be made when coding oral reading samples to show sensitivity to the assets that many readers bring to the text when they have more than one named language or dialect in their repertoire. The Canvas page includes a few articles that are helpful for ensuring cultural and linguistic responsivity in oral reading fluency assessment. In addition to using rate and accuracy as the outcome variables, one final method for assessing fluency can be used with any text or passage with or without a time-limited trial. Fluency rubrics are available on the Canvas site. These rubrics specify dimensions of fluency, and in one example, students created their own rubric, adding images that appealed to them to represent the dimensions of fluency, speed, accuracy, expression, and they characterized the descriptors using student-friendly language.